before Al Franken got into the Senate, he wrote some books. One of them you might remember was Lies and the Lying Liars Who Tell Them. And so we have to talk about some lies since we're talking about Social Security. And you know what the facts are, but in terms of talking to other people, people that are not in your choir, well, you have a really good choir, you need to know what they've been absorbing from Fox News or whatever. And there's basically 4 big lies. So one is it's running out of money. The proof is the trust fund surplus is about to be depleted. That's going to happen in 2035. There will be no more money. So what's the fact? Most of the money that pays benefits right now is from the payroll taxes that are paid in every month, not the surplus. And so when the surplus is depleted, there will still be enough money to pay 80% of benefits, and come 60 years after that, still enough for 75% of benefits. So related to this, lie number 2, they tell young people, when you retire, there will be nothing for you. And again, there won't be 100%, but 75 to 80% is nothing to sneeze at. This is tied with this notion of the government, young people, is stealing money out of your paycheck to give to those old geezers, right? Well, again, the whole idea of Social Security, your benefits are paid by prior generations, and when you're working, you are paying it forward to the next generations. That's the way, that was the whole idea when it started. Line number 3, Congress has been borrowing tons of money out of Social Security for many years. All Social Security has to its name is a bunch of IOUs, and they're all worthless. You probably heard that one. So, well, yes, Congress has borrowed tons of money they probably shouldn't have, a lot of it for wars or tax cuts for the rich, and there are IOUs, but they are not worthless. They are in the form of U.S. Treasury bonds, the safest investment there is. And the last lie, well, whether that's the case or not, the government just isn't going to have the money to pay out. It needs the money on hand, and the national deficits and debt keeps rising, so there just ain't going to be the money on hand to do it. Well, first of all, remember that Social Security adds nothing to the federal budget deficits and debt. It's separately funded. The deficits are growing because of other reasons. Increases in other funding, especially military, tax cuts to the rich. This is called, as I think you know, the starve the beast strategy. We'll slash taxes for the rich. Government will have less money. Then we can tell people, oh gee, we don't have as much money as before. We have to cut your Social Security benefits, your Medicare benefits. Now, most people probably have figured out that those big tax cuts a year ago mostly just helped the very rich. So people might think, well, that doesn't affect me. So your message to them is, it does affect you, because that loss of federal revenue will be used as an excuse to cut your Social Security and Medicare benefits. Hopefully that will stick in people's minds. In terms of actual policy proposals, we have to go on both defense and offense at the same time. And you know all this as well, of course. The policy attacks that we have to defend against, one of the most likely ones is increase the age to get full benefits, which is now is capped at 67 years old. There's proposals to raise it to like 70 years old, maybe even more. If they did that, average person would have 14% less total benefits, Social Security, over their lifetime. Attack number 2, reduce the initial benefit, change the formula to how it's computed. So people start off with less to begin with. And number 3, reduce, different way to lower the benefits, reduce the COLA, cost of living adjustment, by changing that formula. The one you've heard before is called chained consumer price index. What that means, well, instead of looking at what a typical urban white-collar worker spends, we're going to say, well, but someone could choose to buy something else, a substitute, if the price has gone up. And so what would they really choose to buy? Let's figure on that. So that means, for example, price of steak has gone up too much, so you switch to hamburger. And then the price of hamburger goes up too much, so you switch to cat food. That's that idea. Another idea is to means test. Have it according to, or restrict it, or remove it if your income is above a certain amount. That maybe sounds good at first, but that's a time bomb. They can keep lowering the threshold, and also remove public confidence that this is something that everybody can count on, period. No worries or questions asked about that. And then the last one that you know a lot about, you haven't seen it much lately, privatization. At least partial privatization, ultimately if they could get away with it, full privatization. Take a gamble. After all, since it's running out of money, you might as well take a gamble, right? And what that mostly is a windfall for investment brokers, because they get fees out of your pot of money whether your investment is going up or going down. So they love that idea. So those are the main kinds of attacks to expect. And if one particular party that likes these ideas were to control House and Senate and presidency, you could expect that some of this would likely get enacted. So that's the defense. So what about the offense? The one I know you know a lot about is scrap the cap. Going back to what we said earlier, the benefits are mostly going to be there, but not 100%, like 75 to 80%. The payroll tax, as you know, right now is limited to $132,900 a year. So if you eliminated that cap and simply had the existing payroll tax extended for wages all the way up the scale, and as is now matched by the employer, that would provide enough money to ensure full benefits, according to the projections, long into the future. And there was proposals to not totally remove the cap, but raise it to say like $250,000 of wages. That would help a lot. That would actually ensure about 92% of wages. But even better if you just lifted it off completely. A companion idea for improvement is, well, why just do the Social Security tax on wages? What about all that unearned income in the form of investments? If you did that as well, then you would definitely have enough money not just to ensure full benefits for future generations, but to increase benefits in different ways. And we'll talk about ways to do that. One of them goes back to that cost of living adjustment. Currently the consumer price index, which like I said is based on urban white-collar workers, what they typically buy, including things like mortgages for houses, a lot of gas to commute back and forth to work, expenses for their kids. The government already has a different measurement called Consumer Price Index Elderly, CPIE, which is based on the stuff that seniors typically buy, including a lot of health care, for example. And if we use that, then the annual COLA would be greater than it is now, and people's benefits would accumulate better over time. Another idea is to, again, with that computation of the initial benefit, change it so that you have a bigger benefit. Also, two things to help specific groups. Folks who quit their job or cut down hours to care for a loved one at home. By taking this out of the workforce, their benefit, their work record won't be as high as otherwise, less Social Security, so give them a credit, sort of as if they were still working, so that when they retire, then they get a better Social Security benefit than they would otherwise. And then finally, something that existed between 65 to 1985, people over 18 up to age 22, if they're on going to post-secondary ed and have survivor benefits, to let them keep that. That helped a lot of people get through college. We had it before, no reason why we can't have it again. Now, another thing about younger people to note is a lot of younger people nowadays don't stay in any job long enough to get vested in some pension benefit, even if there's something like that still exists. And so, in actuality, Social Security taken out of their wages is the only thing that also forces their employer to kick in money for their retirement. So that might be the only thing a lot of them will have. But again, if they've been convinced it's not going to be there, it's our job to do that otherwise. The card that Bill talked about, you all have it there. I helped give some out at the fair a few years back, and it's interesting. 30-second conversation with a young person. You can do this. Have you heard that your Social Security benefits aren't going to be there? Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? Good news, that isn't true. 80% will be there. And the overwhelming reaction is, oh, wow, great relief. Good news. So that's an important message to give to young people. Those are the basic things that I think are the most useful to know when you're talking to people about this issue. Now, you haven't heard much about it in this campaign from the politicians or the media. You could say it's a sleeper issue, but it's really a sleeping giant. Like I said, it's always been there. The forces to reduce it or take it away are always going to be there. And so it is important to press candidates about that. What are they going to do about Social Security, even if they're not talking about it much themselves? So that's for you to pursue that and question them and tell other people to do that. And like I said before, it's not enough to simply play defense against the attacks. We also have to go on the offense. If nothing else, just scrap the cap is critically important to make sure there are those benefits for our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids in the future. I'm not sure what we're doing on time here, but the next piece is for you to figure some of this out yourself at your tables. In the middle of your table, there's this sheet on white paper. Basically summarizes what I just said. And I don't know if Bill or someone wants to give more instructions, but the idea is basically for, at each table, have a good discussion about, what am I going to say to other people? And remember the importance, it's people always need a little prodding perhaps, not just talk to the people that already agree with you. It can be difficult stepping out of your comfort zone to talk to people that have a different viewpoint. But it's important to do that, and if you wear the hat of, well, it's not me versus you, my team versus your team, I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to beat you over the head to prove I'm right. Rather, I call it educational therapy. You're going to gently disabuse them of the lies that have been crammed in their heads and explain to them in a, in a reasonable, factual way what the score really is. And the point being, here are the right things to do about the policy. Then look at which candidates of whatever party are proposing one or the other. As opposed to, well, I'm on this party, that's my team, so whatever they say is right. Or my team is that party, whatever they say is right. We have to get past that. And this election is going to be a big, important time to do that. Last item, there's great information, a lot of handouts on the table back there, including the specific bills in Congress right now in the hopper to improve benefits. So there's a wealth of information, more than you'll ever need to know.